Today we're going to talk a little about sunflower production, and I know it's not a common topic for us here on the show, but there are absolutely some important steps, some things we've seen around the country for the top yielding sunflower producers that they're doing that a lot of others aren't. It really starts with weed control because we don't have good post-emerge options. There's nothing you can do for broadleaves post in at least conventional sunflower. So we would encourage you, put down a couple of pre-emerge herbicides. We'd like to see Spartan plus Prowl or Sonalan. Those are your best options. Prowl and no-till, Sonalan conventional till, but you've got to have the Sonalan or Prowl plus the Spartan. If you don't have both, chances are you're going to have weed problems later in the year.
Well, and in terms of weed problems, you can plant some different types of sunflowers. Maybe it's Clearfield, so you have those ALS products that you can use. Maybe it's Express sunflowers or something else, so you just have one other option, but still, there's nothing like Roundup Ready or Liberty Link out there. It's not like you're going to wipe out everything. You still have to be real cautious. That pre is so critical. Of course, if you have grass control come in later, there's plenty of options there.
Okay, in terms of fertility, a lot of people look at sunflowers as, well, they can really mine a lot of things out of the soil, and they can, but here's the thing. If you're going to have a good crop next year, you probably want to fertilize this year for whatever that sunflower is going to remove from the soil. So we just encourage you, take a look at the Ag PhD fertilizer removal app, do some soil testing, and really look hard at this thing because sunflowers respond to fertilizer just like any other crop does.
And even in our state, there were guys that had 1,200 pound sunflowers and 3,500 pounds per acre of sunflowers, and it came down to fertility. When guys would push it and go for it and put the fertility out there, sunflowers are a crop that will give you a return on investment.
Yeah, and when you speak about that return on investment, the big thing is understanding your soil test. So we don't want you to waste money on fertilizer, but if you know the soil test, you've tested your ground, then you can better invest your fertilizer dollars. So even with high price fertilizer, you still should be making money on your farm.
Okay, the other things that I think about are insect and disease control. I wish I had something good for bird control, but I don't. But as far as bugs, you just have to be very timely. Insecticides have come way down in price. Just get out, scout your sunflowers, and then be a little bit proactive. You know when that head's out there, you know there are going to be bugs that are coming after you. Spray a couple of shots of insecticide throughout the season. It only costs a few dollars. As soon as you're seeing some bugs, it's definitely worth it in sunflowers to protect them. Then when you look at the fungicides, the guys that are getting 3,500 pound flowers are putting a couple applications of fungicide out there throughout the season to protect themselves. If you don't, you end up with really bad looking sunflowers. You end up with white heads, you end up with disease all over those leaves, and you just can't possibly get the tonnage that you'd like.
In most crops we talk about Endura, Proline. Just check in your state to see what's labeled. But all I can tell you is it's going to take a different fungicide if you want white mold control as opposed to controlling almost any other disease.
So sunflowers, there are just a lot of critical steps along the way, and there aren't any rescue treatments. So we've got to be proactive with weed control especially.
Well, there aren't any weed control rescue options. There are plenty of rescue options in terms of bugs, fungicide you can spread a little later in the season.
But again, you have to be timely because once that head turns down, you can't protect it anymore. So you've got to be very careful about what you're doing with sunflowers.
One of the other big things too, I guess, before we leave this topic, a lot of people talk about lodging in sunflowers. It comes down to potassium in most cases. Make sure you've got 4% base saturation K, and your lodging problems should be a thing of the past.
And of course, if you have our Weed of the Week, you'll have to get it stopped to have a successful crop. Can you identify this week's weed?